Hello, Thrill Maxers, and welcome to another episode of Talk Around the Park. This is a series where we take a specific park and then we ask some local experts to weigh in on their opinions on the park, give us some insider tips. Today's featured park is going to be Six Flags St. Louis. I actually grew up with this park, so I'm super excited to talk about this one today. This was one of my two home parks growing up, but I'm not alone in this episode. I said we had experts, and we do. We have with us tonight Tom from Show Me Coasters. Tom, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Steve, how's it going?
Going pretty good. For those of you who don't know Tom, make sure to go and subscribe to his channel, Show Me Coasters. It's fantastic. It really, if you want to know anything about the three different parks that are in Missouri, and also other Six Flags parks, they get out to a ton of different Six Flags parks and Cedar Fair parks. So make sure to subscribe to them. We're so happy to have you on. I've actually been, me and Tom have hung out. Anytime I go down to Six Flags St. Louis, I tell Tom about it, and several occasions Tom has showed up. And then the other half of Show Me Coasters, T, also shows up with them. It's super, super cool to see you guys out at the parks.
We love hanging out with you guys down there.
Thanks. Without further ado, we're going to jump right into this episode. Before we do, though, Tom, why don't you just kind of briefly tell everybody your connection to the park and why you're an expert?
Okay, so I started going to Six Flags St. Louis when I was 6. Now, that would have been around 1973, so it was still a fairly new park. And at that time, it was Six Flags over Mid-America, which I really wish they would bring that name back. But that's another issue and another topic. So, but yeah, I've grown up out there. During the 80s, I wasn't out there as much. Between high school and college and being in the military, I didn't get to go to the park that much. So, but coming back in the 90s, we started going out there more. And of course, then, a couple of years ago, we started our channel. So I've been out at the park a lot in the last 4 seasons.
So you've really grown up with this park.
Yeah, I've watched it change and grow, and some of the changes were pretty cool. Some of the changes, not so much.
Yeah, that's really cool. Interesting fact, too, from my side of the family, my grandparents, I'm connected to the park through my family. My mom and her side of the family live in Missouri. My dad and his side live in New York. So Six Flags Great Adventure was my home park for many years, and then Six Flags St. Louis was my home park for many years. My grandparents' coolest thing is their honeymoon was to Six Flags St. Louis. Wow. They didn't have a whole lot of money. And they went to Six Flags St. Louis the year that it opened, and they have a character. And the cool thing about the character is it's not one of those cartoons that make you look, crazy. Right. It was just like a portrait of them, and it was the two of them, and it's dated. And it's from opening year of Six Flags St. Louis from when they went there. So it's really cool. And so when I moved out with my mom, my grandparents used to take us all the time growing up. And this is when it was Six Flags over Mid-America. And so I too have grown up with the park, but I haven't been around as long as my grandparents going to the park, or even as long as you, you started off in the 70s. So I wasn't even around in the 70s.
Yeah, I still remember a lot of the old rides that we used to have and a lot of the old attractions that we used to have. So that was really, that brings back a lot of good memories. And we did a video series just recently on the kind of the ride history, the park history of Six Flags St. Louis. So it was kind of fun to revisit that and remember what it was like to go on those rides when they were still fairly, still new.
Absolutely. And we'll get into that here in just a minute, one of our segments. But I want to kick this show off as we do with every show, and let's talk generally about what audience do you think Six Flags St. Louis is geared towards?
Oh, I think Six Flags St. Louis is really geared as a family park. Yeah, we've got some great coasters and some great thrill rides out there for the enthusiasts, but overall, it's a family park through its layout and through the attractions that they do have.
I would agree. There's some rides for thrill seekers. Don't just because we're saying family park, guys. If you're a thrill seeker, still get out to this park because they definitely do have some really thrilling rides. But I agree. Anytime I go to the park, I see a lot of families.
Yeah,
I see moms and dads pushing strollers with their kids.
Yep.
And I also see a
and you
lot
even
of
see the grandparents, and you even see the grandparents on the motor scooters running around the park with their families.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of rides, but not just rides, that are geared towards grandparents and people who don't like thrill rides. There's a lot of really nice family attractions, but there's also shows that are geared for family.
Yep.
And there's all kinds of special events, and we'll get to those later. But so really, this is a park that the entire family can get out to and just have a good day. Whatever you want to do, there's something for you.
Right. No matter what you want to do at the park out at Six Flags St. Louis, you can have a good time. So, if you're looking for some really high intense thrills, we have that. If you're looking for something that's a little more laid back, a little more relaxing, we can do that too.
Mm-hmm. And if you just want to sit in a lazy river all day, you got that too. And guys, the water park is included with your park admission. So if you want to just jump back and forth, dry park, wet park, or if you are a grandparent or something and you want to just go and sit in a chair and sunbathe for a little while and let the kids go in the dry park and let them get on some coasters and meet back up with them, you can do that. Yep. So I love that about Six Flags St. Louis.
And really probably Hurricane Harbor is probably the greatest addition that they added to our park. And then including it in the price of the ticket to get in, that makes it just, that's just icing on the cake.
Yeah. And unlike Six Flags Over Georgia, where you go into the main entrance and you got to go all the way up all those hills, all the way to the back of the park to get to their water park. Mm-hmm. Not at St. Louis. It's right in the front. You get in, you get in those gates, and right there, before you even get to any coasters, your water park is right there. So it's incredibly accessible, and it makes it easy to go from dry park to wet park really easy.
The original concept was that Hurricane Harbor would have its own entrance off of the parking lot that would be a separate ticketed, because originally Hurricane Harbor was not supposed to be included in the ticket price to the park.
I didn't know that.
You'd be going to just Hurricane Harbor, or you could go just to Six Flags St. Louis. But then they had, Six Flags came up with the brilliant idea. Well, just let them in the water park. They've already paid all this money to get in the park. So they decided to include that price.
Yeah. And I will say just briefly, when we're mentioning the water park here, I think one of the reasons that they did that, is because there are some days where that dry park is empty.
Yeah.
And that water park is where everybody's at, because Missouri, well, why don't you kind of talk about the climate? Because that's going to play into a lot of these different categories we're going to talk about. But talk about the climate, the weather. What can generally we expect from a season?
Generally, in the state of Missouri, we have all 4 seasons, undoubtedly. We have a good spring, we have a lovely autumn, we have a cold winter, and we have a blisteringly hot, humid summer. It is one of the most miserable areas of the country that you can be in during the summer. There's just no other way. It's very suppressive. So if your park doesn't have a water park attached to it, you're going to have a lot of miserable guests in Missouri. So that's why I said that's probably the greatest addition that Six Flags added to our park, is adding that water park, because it is just crazy hot. And then with most of the pathways in our park being asphalt blacktop, that's not concrete. Only in a few small areas is it concrete, but mostly it's blacktop. And that just reflects the heat right back at you. There's no relief from it if you're outside in the park. There's just no other way around it. That's why, we had 3 water rides originally. We had the log flume, but the log flume didn't really get you all that wet. And then in the 80s, we got Thunder River, which was a great addition. I mean, that, I can remember waiting 2-3 hours to get on Thunder River just to cool off.
And then, still to this day, on hot days,
yeah,
it'll pull over an hour and a half line. I've seen it that long before.
Yeah. And then the tidal wave. And then they added the tidal wave. And the tidal wave was spectacularly, popular. Up until the last 2 seasons, it wasn't getting as much ridership as it had in the past. And that a lot of that declined whenever they opened the water park because, hey, why do I want to go be hot in the main park when I can just be at the water park all day? So
exactly. You
could see a huge crowd and you could go in and have basically a walk-on on just about any ride in the park. It was kind of cool, but the last couple of years I've seen attendance kind of come up in the dry park. It's starting to kind of equal out between the water park and the dry park.
Yeah, and I can tell you, growing up, there are so many days that we would go to the park. We go into the water park for the daytime, and then 6 o'clock at night when they shut down the water park, whenever it was, we go into the dry park because the sun was setting. It was getting cooler in the park. Now, all of a sudden, we can enjoy the dry park. Yeah. I've done that so many times.
Yeah, there's been millions of times that T and I have gone out and just gone to the water park. Just go to the water park, get wet, relax, enjoy it a little bit, and then go home.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is something to note for you guys out there. If you don't do well in heat, especially humid climates, or if that's just not your thing, if you don't like being in those kind of climates, may want to rethink Six Flags St. Louis, or go in the spring or go in the fall, go in a time where it's not so hot. But if it doesn't bother you, then for all intended purposes, get out to this park.
Yeah. I would say that if, even if the heat does bother you a little bit, there are still things you can do to cool down. I mean, the water park is there, but we also have great shows at the Palace Theater. Miss Kitty's Saloon is open as well. I don't know if they're doing anything at the Empire. If you have little ones, they have the Looney Tunes characters at the Empire Theater. So there are chances to go in and get some air conditioning, cool down. And we've got a few rides that are air conditioned too, such as Battle for Metropolis. Justice League Battle for Metropolis is always a nice climate inside there. It's lovely.
It's perfect because they cool it down significantly when it's in the summer, and then they heat it up in the winter. So no matter what season it is,
it's always a good place to get comfortable.
Yeah, for sure. There are times where, because a lot of times on those the Justice League Battle for Metropolis rides, I'll use a single rider line just to skip the line. But I find myself, if it's super hot out or if it's super cold out, I'll wait in the regular line just so I get that 30, 45 minutes, whatever it is, of just comfort for just a few minutes.
Yeah, that queue line is air conditioned as well in that building. So that makes it also extra awesome.
Yeah. And so that's going to bring us up, we're already kind of talking about it, but that's going to lead right into our next segment, which is the park's ride lineup. We just talked about a couple of the rides, but Tom, why don't you tell us more about the park's ride lineup and what can we expect?
We have a pretty good park lineup, I think, as far as rides. We have it's not a huge collection of kids rides, but there is a nice little kids area up there at the top of the hill. There's some really good rides for little ones. I'm talking about tiny little guys. We got a good collection of rides for them. And then we have a decent amount of flat rides. I think we could use a few more to round out the park a little more. And then our coasters, we've got 9 coasters, and, most of them are decent. 7 are really good. 2 of them, well, 1 is iffy and 1 is just awful as far as I'm concerned. But otherwise, I think our lineup is you can have a pretty good time on our lineup.
I agree. I definitely think that this park, in my opinion, is known more for the wooden coasters. There's 3 fantastic. There's 2 fantastic, amazing coasters, and 1 that's pretty good. A little rough, but pretty good. And I will say this before we go any further. And I'm so happy about this. Tonight, I'm actually wearing one of those wooden coaster shirts. I'm wearing the Screaming Eagle shirt. And Screaming Eagle is the one I'm talking about that's rough. Compared to American Thunder or the Boss. However, the Screaming Eagle is just classic. I mean, when it was built, it was the tallest, fastest, longest coaster in the world. Before we had the King de Caz, before we had Formula Rosa, we had Screaming Eagle, and it was at Six Flags St. Louis. It's the only record-breaking coaster, and for that reason, I say keep it, go on it. Even if it's a little rough.
Well, I really think that Screaming Eagle is what kicked off the roller coaster wars, the building the next biggest, tallest, fastest, coaster going right on down the line. Because after that, you had the Beast that opened up at Six Flags Great America, or at Kings Island, and then you had American Eagle that opened up at Six Flags Great America. So everybody's trying to outdo each other, and it all started with Six Flags St. Louis and whenever they opened the Screaming Eagle.
Yeah. So from the beginning, from the very first wood coaster that they put in there, they were making statements with their wooden coasters, and they were building, and they have built a really great collection of wooden coasters. Not to say that the steel coasters are bad. There's a lot of great supporting coasters. You've got a Boomerang, you've got a Mine Train, you have your Aero Looper, Aero / Vekoma Looper that's in the park with Ninja. You've got your B&M Batman, which are always great rides. Personally, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think when I think standout steel coaster, I don't know if you have a standout, but I think for the park, it'd be Mr. Freeze. I think everybody says Mr. Freeze is that super intense launch coaster,
Yeah. And it is. It's a great coaster, and it's a lot better now that they turned it into Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast. And they did that back in 2012. And that's because a lot of people would get off of that and go, my back is killing me because of that launch from launching forward, and they turned it around and they made it the reverse blast. So you're launching out backwards. So you're going through the circuit backwards for the first half. And then you're going forward through it from the spike down back into the station. And it makes it a really crazy intense ride, because if it's your first time riding it, you have no idea what to expect from that ride. No. Even though you can sit there and watch the complete cycle from outside and watch what that coaster does, it's still, there's nothing like experiencing that inverted top hat for the first time, and you're going through it backwards, so you have no idea what's happening. You have no idea what it's doing to you.
And there's even a moment on that coaster. Oh, there's my two favorite moments. I think everyone will say that these are probably their two favorite moments. But if you're sitting in what used to be the back of the train, now it's the front of the train that launches out. But if you sit there, when you go up that 200-foot vertical spike and you're at the very top, the amount of floater airtime that you get up there, and then you drop down and go forward, it is best drop in the park. It is awesome to get all that floater airtime. But the moment I like even better than that is going this. So you've already gone through the course backwards. You go up that vertical spike,
right,
and then you drop down. And when you go through the course forward back into the station, when you go back through that top hat, it stalls for a second up there, and you think, if you've never been on it, like, we're not going to make it. We're going to fall back down.
Right.
It's really cool. You can actually feel yourself come out of your seat. You can feel that hang time for just a second, and it is
there is
so cool.
Slight pause. It's only like maybe a half a second or maybe a second at the most, but just as you're coming down and the coaster's starting to twist back into the straight portion to go into the tunnel, it's like, oh, why are we stopping? You get that feeling like this is not supposed to happen. This should be a much smoother transition right here. Totally. But it adds to it. It's a really fun coaster. It's a really great coaster. And as far as I know, it hasn't valleyed too many times as far as that I know of. No. They did have, after they had the accident with Batman and Robin, the Chiller, then all the premiere rides got shut down, and they had to have new trains put on them, and the trains had to be reworked. So, but ever since then, that ride has ran pretty much consistently every season.
Yeah, I agree. One of the weird things, and I will shout out El Toro Ryan and his channel. He
Mhm.
did he's doing a series on problematic coasters and just weird, quirks of coasters. And
Yeah.
one of them, he did one on Mr. Freeze. Now he was talking about the one down in Texas, but they're
Right.
the same coaster.
It's the same coaster, and they opened the same year. I think Texas beat us by like 2 weeks opening
Yeah.
first.
And the weird part of that, first of all, the weird part is that the Mr. Freeze layout, it was not designed for over Texas. It was specifically designed. The reason that it does, you go up into a top hat, which is basically a turnaround, then you go into another turnaround, and it just makes a circle, is because Mr. Freeze at St. Louis is on a little island.
Right.
And the River Rapids ride goes all the way around it. So you were landlocked on where to put that coaster. So they made it fit in that circle plot of land. And so all they did was stick it down in Texas. If you look at the plot of land in Texas, they didn't need to fit within. They had no restrictions on where they could have gone. It was just a flat piece of land, basically. So the reason that coaster is designed and laid out the way it is because of St. Louis's needs for where to put that coaster.
Right.
And I do think too, one of the best entrances in the entire park. I love it. Looks like a snow cone factory, that
is one of the better themed areas of the park. Yeah,
it's really cool. And then right across from that is the Justice League, and that has a great entrance. So that little DC area is cool.
They could still do a lot in that little area, I think,
Yeah.
And really bring that up to par.
And I do want to briefly just mention just a couple of the flat rides. We do have the Zamperla Disco, which is Spinsanity down there. It's actually a really fun ride.
It is a fun ride. It is. It's grown on me. I'm not real big for spinning rides, at least not in the last few years. I get motion sickness really easy now on a spinning ride. It's not that fun for me. But that one, it depends on the day, and it depends on the weather, really, on how it makes me feel. Sometimes I can ride it and I'm fine, and other times I have problems with it.
Yeah.
There's that one, and then also we got the new Zamperla Endeavor Supergirl.
Yeah, which is super fun.
Yeah,
I really like it.
My only complaint with that is I think they gypped us out, and I think they did it because they didn't think we had the capacity for it. But they only gave us the one-seater model. Instead of having seats side by side, we have just one seat,
Yeah, I noticed that when I went to Texas.
Yeah, Texas.
Theirs is called Catwoman's Whip down there, and it is the two-seater side by side. Me and my girlfriend, Miss Becca, she rode right next to me, and so that was a little bit weird to see just one seat on the arms. Yep. But overall, it's a great ride for the park. It basically just replaced your first gen Enterprise that was there,
right?
But the lighting package, when you're at night and you see Supergirl, it looks so cool.
It's stunning. It's very stunning. It really lights up that corner of the park. And that's in our Britannia section, and that section has been kind of dark. I mean, we've got the carousel over there, and we have the little Carnival Midway leading back into that area from Pandemonium. But that area has always been kind of dark at night. So really lighting up that area really brings prominence to it, because that area should be a little bit more popular, because that has our big coaster, our giant coaster, the Boss. That's where our entrance for the Boss is. So that gets a lot of traffic back there, and to utilize that area back there better with newer rides, I think is a really great way for the park to go with.
I agree. The other really colorful ride that you have is you do have a Larson Loop, and that really lights up the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Up there. So that's a really great lighting package too. If you guys have seen the Larson loops, they all have great lighting packages.
Yeah, it's all pretty much basic. You know, they're all the same. It doesn't matter what size the loop is. The light package is the same.
Exactly. Other than that, you got a couple of little other little rides. You got a scrambler there, which best name for a scrambler ever, Shazam.
Yeah.
I really like that. And then what I think, and it's been down for the last 2 seasons, but I believe that it has been refurbished. It will open again when the park opens, and that is Excalibur, which is really your big boy flat ride of the park.
Yeah, that's probably our biggest thrill ride, flat ride at the park, and it's one that I haven't been on personally, just because it came in and I'm like, I'm not feeling it, but I'll probably ride it this season if we get it to open, because basically it's new for 2020 at this point.
Yeah.
When we say that they did a complete refurbishment, I mean they totally dismantled this thing. The ride vehicles were sent out of country to be refurbished, repainted, all new parts. Everything has been put into them. All the mechanicals on the structure itself that's still standing at the park has been gone through, overhauled, repainted. And this thing looks absolutely stunning now sitting there. It's just waiting to be ridden. So I'm looking forward to riding it. I'm going to ride it and hope that it turns out for the best. But I'm sure it will. Sure. Fear of the unknown is always the biggest thing that holds people back. So
for sure. And I will say I have ridden it. For those of you who are on the East Coast and grew up with Six Flags Great Adventure, this ride came from Six Flags Great Adventure. I forgot what it was called. If you know, comment down below. Comment in or make a comment about this. What was it called over at Six Flags Great Adventure? But it was moved from there. It did come to St. Louis. The cool thing is that it is built by Vekoma, and it's an extremely rare Vekoma flat ride. You just don't see.
I think there's only like 3 worldwide.
Yep. No, there was only 3 built. Yeah. And one of them is at St. Louis. So I will say, from a feeling point of view, it feels the exact same as any Gravitron, as any Enterprise. It feels the same. You get no airtime. You're just sucked to the back of your seat. I've always said, I don't even think you need the over-the-shoulder restraints. I don't even know if you need a bar, period, because you literally are just sucked to the seat. However, the way it works is that you start spinning, and then there's an arm, and the arm flips you. There's a complete 360 all the way around. So when you're at the top and you're spinning, you're actually on your stomach looking down.
Right.
Okay? And that looks way more intimidating than it feels. So you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, those people are looking straight down, and you're spinning at, 30, 40 mile an hour. Oh my gosh. When you're up there, you don't even feel it like that. It just feels like a Gravitron. But if you have a chance to get on this ride, guys, I would say if you go down to St. Louis just to ride Excalibur and the Boss and American Thunder and Mr. Freeze, those 4 rides, it's worth the cost of admission just to get on those rides.
Yeah, and our park has some really great signature rides that are really only available at our park.
Agreed. And that's going to easily flow into our next segment, which is what are the best rides in the park. I'll kick this off, Tom, and say I think best flat ride personally is Excalibur. I actually think Excalibur might be one of the top 5 flat rides in Missouri. That's just my opinion. I think best coaster, this is really tough for me because there's a couple of ones to go back and forth with. I personally think that it's a shootout between the Boss and American Thunder. I think that for me personally, I think it's a tie between those two. It just depends. Do you want the bigger, longer layout? Do you want the more compact GCI? But what do you think? What do you think the best rides in the park are for you?
I think so too. If there's a flat ride that I have to get on out there, it's probably going to be Spin Sanity.
Okay.
The Perla Disco. And just because it's not so intense and it doesn't spin so fast that I'm just absolutely, done after I get off of it.
Sure.
As far as coasters go, I gotta go with the Boss. I mean, it's just an incredible ride. Yeah, it can be rough, not gonna lie. But if you catch the Boss on a nice, hot, humid day when those tracks are warmed up and they are rolling, that ride is just incredible. After you go down that first drop into that double down on the first drop is just amazing, and it shoots you up into the turnaround on the backside. You're going through the superstructure. It's one of the best rides out there, I think. It's one of my favorite wooden coasters.
And one of my favorite night rides.
Oh, one of the best night rides I've ever had.
The cool thing about, for those of you who don't know, well, first, here's why I can't say definitively Boss for me. I think the Boss, the first half, it's got an amazing first half of its layout. The second half is where I have some trouble with it, because you have hills, but at almost every hill you go up and then you turn, and you go up and you turn. And I wish there was a couple of actual just straight up airtime hills, give you some more airtime pops. It just kind of meanders there at the end. But for me, if you guys don't know why I'm saying this is one of the best night rides, why Tom is saying it too, is because the first drop is, the coaster's about, you drop, the first drop initially it would only be 100 feet if it's not into a natural ravine. You pick up an extra 50 feet, it gives you that 150 foot. But the way it drops, you drop, then you kind of level out, and then you go underneath the structure. I mean, it's a huge structure.
Yeah, the superstructure.
And then all of a sudden you drop and curve. And that dropping curve, if you get some of the most insane ejector airtime on that drop. But at night, you're flying by and you just see silhouettes of wood flying by your head. Yeah, and then you see trees, and the trees are, just the silhouettes of trees from the moonlight, and you're in the woods. And when you think of a park in Missouri, you think of woods, you think of being out in the country, and that's what this coaster gives you. And the sense of speed, you don't have a frame of reference for things. You are just it's grease lightning out there at night.
Now, my only drawback for the Boss is the mid-course brake run. And for the last couple seasons, they have turned the trims on so hard, the coaster comes to a complete stop at the top of the mid-course brake run.
Yeah.
And it just kills all the momentum. I'm not saying to turn them off completely and just let us free fly through there, but come on, don't stop us at the top of the hill. Let us keep that momentum going. Because once you go through that mid-course brake run and you hit that first drop off of the mid-course, and then you're going back up, and it's just kind of crawling around that turnaround to go down as you head towards the last run. And it's just like, oh my God, you've killed this ride. So, but it's still the best ride at the park, I think. Even on its rough days, I think it's still awesome.
Yeah, other than, some people will claim, well, Mr. Freeze got the bigger drop. It's over 200 feet. And my problem, Mr. Freeze, is that, it's a 200-foot drop if you're in the back rows. If you're in the front rows, I don't think it's 200 feet in the front rows.
I think it hits the 200-foot mark on the front row.
Really? Because it doesn't seem that for me. I don't know why. It's if you look at not launch coasters, they only have the one. But if you just look at just traditional coasters in the park, they've got lift hills. The Boss is the biggest drop in the park. Yeah. The Boss is also the longest ride in the park by far, I think.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at, it used to be longer. It used to be longer. They had a helix at the end. It was like a triple, quadruple. I mean, its helix was ridiculous, but it was so rough. I mean, your jaw, you could chip your teeth on. I've been on that on its roughest of days, and I can tell you that I always just hated. I'd brace, and especially in those Gerstlauer trains. There's no padding.
The Gert Flower trains are not very comfortable. I will give you that.
No, it's so they reprofiled the last turn is what they did. They just made it just a swooping turn.
Yeah,
at the end.
I missed the Helix. I think I would rather have the Helix. Believe it or not, I preferred the Helix.
It took away what, a couple of 100 feet worth of track?
Yeah, about 400 feet worth of track. But here's what it did. Okay, so used to you would come through the double helix, and as you came out of it and you're going up, there's a double up to come back into the station. So once you're coming out of the helix, you kind of had time to prepare for that. Now with it just being the 180 turn coming off that back side, you don't have time. It's like, the double up's coming, but you still can't prepare for it. And it's a little jarring once you hit that double up and, hit that last brake run before you come into the station. To me, I preferred the Helix. The transition coming out of the turn, going back into the station, was smoother and less jarring as to what it is now.
I'll agree. I'll agree that the transition out of the Helix, because you were already so high up from the Helix.
Right.
The problem now is that you go all the way down with that turn, and then you have to come all the way back up, and that is the problem. And I will say, guys, brace yourself for the double up at the end, because it's a gut buster. It's gonna push you forward, and that bar is gonna hit you. But other than that, I think it's the best ride in the park. That or American Thunder. I go back and forth a lot because I really like GCIs. But that's going to lead us right into, now that we know what the park's lineup is, we know what the best rides in the park are. Next segment is going to be, what additions do we think the park needs? And Tom, I'm going to let you kick this off. What do you think the park needs?
Ooh, obviously we would like to see some newer coasters come in. But really, Six Flags St. Louis really needs some good TLC. The park the last few seasons has been really looking run down. They haven't really painted or really done just basic maintenance stuff that you would think that they would do. I remember the park used to be way better landscaped throughout the whole park. And there were flowers and bushes and trees. We still have a lot of trees, but there's not as much flowers, so there's not as much color. Just pops of color and planters around the park would make that park just look so much better. And putting some fresh paint on entrance queues, just getting it all jazzed up and cleaned up and looking like, hey, we're glad you're here. Thanks for spending your money. We hope you have a great day.
Yeah, I agree. So if we're talking about the aesthetics of the park, I just think fixing up some of your buildings, slapping some fresh coats of paint would do wonders in the park.
Yeah.
I know that this is a systemic problem within Six Flags as a whole, but the advertisements, St. Louis in general has a ton of advertisements everywhere. There's a staircase. I don't know if they did it last year, but there's a staircase coming out of the, over where Screaming Eagle is, down towards where Pandemonium is, and they used to be covered with the M&Ms, and one of the Ninja's train had a wrap around it for Stride gum, and right. It was like, oh man, I know that's at a lot of parks, but specifically, I gotta say St. Louis, I notice it more at St. Louis, so I wish they would just tone that down a little bit, make your park look a little better.
But I don't mind them having enjoy your ride on Ninja sponsored by whoever.
No, I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem when they take the whole train and they wrap it in a wrap and the whole thing looks like a pack of Stride gum. It's like,
but you're not cool too. It's kind of cool, but
I just leave the trains alone, leave the ride alone. Put it out at put it on the sign. You see it all the time. This ride presented by Takis or whatever. Do that. Right. I'm okay with that. But if you're talking rides, so I thought a lot about this. What does the park need? And I settled on two different coasters. And I think you need a kids coaster, because you used to have one. One of my first coaster ever in life was that kid coaster at St. Louis. I've got the pictures to prove it. They have zero kid coaster now.
No.
They need one bad.
Yeah.
And then I think that you guys need a signature coaster. But before we get into that, our next segment actually is, what will the next coaster what will be the next coaster installed? And so I don't think the kid coaster is going to come.
No, I don't think so either.
I want to see two things happen, and I think you can do it with one ride. I'm going to give the two requirements, and then I'm going to let you talk about what you think the next coaster is installed, because I think it's going to be the same. If I say it, it's going to be your answer. I don't want to take away your answer, but I'm going to say the two requirements I have for this. One, get it to 200 feet. And I think we can do that. If we're talking about the same coaster, you can get that to 200 feet. Okay.
Easy.
So, one, get you a traditional hyper coaster, something that says it's 200 feet and not the launch going forward and backwards, just a traditional chain lift hyper coaster. That's the first requirement. Get it 200 feet. The second thing is it's got to be signature, and it cannot be a clone. It has to be a signature custom ride for your park. Now, with that said, I'm going to let you take it over, because I think we're going to talk about the same thing here. What would you think?
Well, I would think that with those two requirements in mind, and the nice thing about it is this kind of investment is not bank breaking investment. But if you RMC the boss and take that terrain, you can easily give us our hyper hybrid at 200 feet. It doesn't have to be a record breaker. It just needs to hit the hyper mark. It just needs to be a 200-foot coaster. It's already at a 100-foot drop or 150-foot drop. What's adding another 40 feet to the lift hill to give us our hyper? And it does two things. It gives us our hyper, and then that coaster suddenly becomes a destination coaster for enthusiasts and people around the world. We will have people in our park from all over the world coming to ride this. So that's what I would like to see done. And I think kind of for the 50th anniversary, that may have been their idea. I don't know if it would have been a hyper necessarily, but I think we were looking at probably an RMC, reimagining of the boss. But with the current situation with the virus, with the COVID-19 and everything that's going on, I don't know if that's going to be possible, at least not for 2021 for the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, and so that's what I was going with. That's kind of what I thought we were going to both be talking about, is RMC boss. Because, I guess the other thing that you could see is a Raptor. Maybe see a Raptor go in, just because they are under $10 million. Right. But in my opinion, a Raptor, especially if you just do a clone of Wonder Woman, it's not gonna have the same pull.
No, it won't.
As the RMC boss, because for two reasons. One, enthusiasts like us are gonna lose their minds, right? Because, oh my gosh, now you have. Because I really do think that the boss's layout right now, currently, if done right, could be one of the best RMCs out.
Yeah, most definitely.
Just my opinion.
Even if they didn't Iron Horse the boss, if they just did topper track and kept the exact same layout, even at the same height and everything, just the topper track on that coaster would be just absolutely amazing. It would, and then
you can take the title away. You could take the title away from Silver Dollar City of having the best wood coaster in Missouri.
Yeah.
So I do, or you could potentially do that. And like you said, it's a 150-foot first drop anyways. Look at what they just did to Iron Gwazi. They took it from about 100 feet to 200 feet. They added about 100 feet. They doubled the whole height of it. So adding 40 feet, they could do easy.
My issue with Iron Gwazi is there's so little of Gwazi left in it.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, they tore down Gwazi and built a new roller coaster. There's hardly any of that original structure still left. And that just that just hurts my heart, because if you've ever seen a photo of Gwazi when it was standing, before RMC, that was one of the most beautiful wooden coasters ever built.
I agree. And it having the two structures, the way that they weaved in and out of each other and did all,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big rat's nest of wood, and it just looked neat.
It looked incredible.
I will say that that's one of the downsides to the Boss, is it is not very photogenic. It's very hard to film it because it's in the woods.
It's in the woods, but see, that's what makes the Boss unique, is it's a terrain coaster. It's not something that's just slapped onto a plot of parking lot.
Exactly.
This whenever CCI designed this, they were like, "You've got these hills in your park. Let's use them."
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And so personally, I think you're right. I think, if it were up to me and you, we'd slap 40 feet onto this thing. We'd let it drop into that ravine. Oh my gosh. I'm just thinking, just thinking for a second, when it drops, could you imagine Shilky just putting just a little bit of a bump that goes right into that second drop?
Going through the structure. Oh yeah.
See, who baby? Now we're talking. Yep,
or even just a little bit of a twist on that bump, just a little bit of an angle that throws you kind of up out of that seat a little bit to one side, whoa, and then throws you back into the other one.
Oh man. Yeah, I think give that to Alan, and Alan goes crazy. I think that would be really fun.
And then a 0G stall coming through that lift hill.
Yeah, because when you're right, because when you come back on the return run, you go right there, right under it, and you make that turn, and then you go up onto the little levee
for the mid course.
Right. Yeah, no, that'd be fantastic. I would love it because it would give off, just not the whole thing, but just the part where you drop and you go under that structure. Very Steel Vengeance vibe going through the structure and having that. And
not only that, but adding 40 feet to the lift hill and making that a 190-foot drop or a 200-foot drop, that totally changes the profile of your park, the silhouette of your park from the street, because that's going to dominate your skyline.
Yeah, because when you're coming up to St. Louis, when you're first walking in the park, when you're in the parking lot, you see Batman. Batman's right there in the front. You always see that. And you can see the spike from Mr. Freeze. And you can see in the very, very distance, you can see Screaming Eagle, the white structure there.
Yep.
But when you look over to the left side, if you're looking at the park and you look to the left, there is this massive structure that's there. And you only see the tops of the hills, but you realize something's lurking out in the woods. Something's out there. It's going to get me. And I've always said, and I want to throw this out there, because if it happens, I want to get credit for it. I've always said, when you RMC it, you change the name to the Midwest Express. I'm just saying, I think that's one of the best names for a coaster in Missouri or in the Midwest. The Midwest Express, man.
Yep, and retheme the trains to like, well, basically the same ones that they use at Silver Dollar City. Those trains that they use on Outlaw Run are amazing. I love it. Yeah. It's open front. There's nothing between you and the track in front of you except that lap bar. It is absolutely. I love the front row on Outlaw Run.
Yeah, man. I agree. I totally agree. And they can get really, really cool. The new RMC trains like Iron Gwazi, that lead car for Iron Gwazi looks so good. I mean, it looks so good. So yeah, RMC, Alan Shilkey, please pressure Six Flags. Tell them you want to work. Let them know that what you could do with this. And Six Flags, if you're listening, please give it to us. Like we waited a long time. We waited since Boomerang.
For some reason, I think Alan Shilkey already has these plans on his desk.
Me too. I think that
I really think that's what our next coaster is going to be. And I think it was planned to be for 2021, but now that the COVID-19 crisis has hit, it might get put off for a year or two just to let the company rebuild its assets and get back in line with itself.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. You know, as long as we get it.
As long as I get it, yeah, I'm happy.
And as long and if you're gonna now Six Flags, hear me out on this. If you're gonna make us wait a couple more years, which we totally understand given the environment, give us that extra 40 feet. Give us that hype. Make it a hyper. Come on.
I mean, my hyper coaster.
Especially since, and I'll say this.
St. Louis was supposed to get a hyper coaster, a B&M hyper. They would have gotten a B&M hyper just like everybody else. But in 2009, when the company went basically belly up and they had to sell off everything, we got gypped. Our park totally got gypped on that. I mean, we've got parks like Six Flags America, and don't get me wrong, Six Flags America is a really cool park in Maryland, but they've got a hyper. They don't have the attendees that Six Flags St. Louis does. This park, right, that is like a tier 4 park, maybe a tier 5 park. It's just at the bottom of the food chains as far as Six Flags goes.
Yeah, and as much as I love having Great America in my backyard, and as much as I love coasters because I'm an enthusiast, we don't need any more coasters anytime soon. Magic Mountain does not need any coasters anytime soon. If you don't, in my opinion, and who am I, right? Who am I to know these things? But in my opinion, if you don't start investing in these parks, they're never going to perform the way you want to perform them. You have got to start putting money in them. Magic Mountain at one point in time wasn't Magic Mountain that we know now. Great Adventure wasn't Great Adventure that we know now. There was a point in history where the company said, let's start investing money into this park, and they built it up, and it is what it is today. Now you've done that for a few of your parks. Stop with those, move down the ladder, go to the next tiers of chain, and start building them up, because if you don't do that, I've always said, how can you expect St. Louis to pull in the attendance if you haven't given them a new coaster? I think since what, 2012 was Boomerang, 2011,
and
2012.
That's not a new coaster. That was a used coaster from Astroland.
Right. If you go back from there, what was it Pandemonium, or was it what was the last original coaster?
The last original coaster was the Boss. That's the last original coaster. You got to remember, American Thunder is a clone.
You're right.
Of Thunderbird in Finland.
You're right.
But that being said, it's the only one in North America.
Right. But so let's talk ground up then. What is, because Boomerang was a relocation. That wasn't a ground up. Right. So you're either looking at, it's got to be either American Thunder or Pandemonium. It's got to be one of those two that were the last.
Pandemonium's a clone. I mean, Spinning Dragons is the exact same ride at Worlds of Fun. So it's not even an original concept. But yeah, it was new from ground up.
Mm-hmm. So it's one of those two. It's one of those two. And I think, I can't remember which one came after, but for some reason, I really think Pandemonium came after
American Thunder.
American Thunder, didn't it? Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah, like a year later.
Comment down below if we're wrong. And if we're wrong, don't kill us in the comments. But comment down below which one was what was the last ground up coaster. Because you're right, the last original layout was the Boss, and that was in 2000. So we're looking at 20 years ago. When the last time you guys got something custom. And wouldn't it be funny then I just think about this? Wouldn't it be interesting if they did RMC the Boss to a custom layout? It would take the last custom layout coaster from 20 years ago and then just putting a new skin on top of it and making it the newest. That is pretty interesting. The newest custom layout is the same structure.
Another coaster that I would love to see us get. I mean, it would be great to get an RMC Raptor. I mean, they're small, they're compact. I'm even okay with getting a clone, but building it from the ground up, not a relocation. Sure. But those S&S Axis coasters are amazing. I want one of those so bad. Yeah, that would look so cool. I would put it over in the back studio, or the studio backlot. I would put it over there, and I would probably call it Robin. I might even call it Joker. But I think that T and I were talking, and we think that really could probably be the next 4D Free Fly. as far as being cloned and
Sure.
being sold to a lot of parks. That
I've always said, since I saw the animation video that SNS put out, if you look at that animation video from SNS and then you look at the Six Flags, yes, they may have used the same company, but if you look aesthetically, it looks like it's a Six Flags commercial.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks verbatim what Six Flags does, and I'm wondering if that's what it was. If they release it to the world, so this is the concept, but in the back of their mind, Six Flags maybe has already purchased some, or maybe said, "Hey, we're interested in this." And so what they did was say, "Well, let's just go ahead and make the video we're going to show for all the parks that are going to get this, right? And make our bigger promo video now."
I've also heard that Six Flags is not real happy with SNS right now, due to
from what I hear,
from Maxx Force.
Yeah. So, and I will say this: this is unconfirmed. This is unreliable. We're not at all trying to break news here. We're just going off people that we've talked to, that I've talked to, anyways, for sure. That may or may not work for the park. No names. I've talked to them, and they have said that they're not happy with the performance of Maxx Force. It took so long to open. Then it had so many issues. I mean, so many issues. For a while there, for a long time, it wouldn't make it through a whole operating day without going down at least once.
Right.
It got better towards the end during Fright Fest, but it was a long road to get to there. And SNS, actually, I know that they sent out a couple of their designers and engineers and stuff to just stay with Maxx Force for a few weeks just to get it up and running. And so I hear they're not very happy with SNS. But then again, SNS, from what I can tell, is doing cheaper rides. And so they may stay with them just because of price.
Well, I mean, you've been with SNS for the past 10 years. I mean, almost every park has a 4D free fly except for St. Louis, because Six Flags Great America stole it. So,
or one of their space shots, or they have a space shot drop tower. The
those
tower
are absolutely amazing. I love their space shots. They're great.
Me too. So a lot of parks have some kind of SNS ride in their park.
Yeah.
Some kind. So they are a major player.
I mean, SNS is kind of the crown prince of aero. I mean, if you have an aero ride in your park, SNS is in there maintaining it.
Yep.
Unless it's a looper, and then that's being done by Vekoma. So all the flat rides, the log flumes, things like that, that's all being maintained by SNS.
Yeah, so they may not be happy with them, but they can't divorce them right now.
No. Nobody can. No.
Yeah. So I agree with that. So now that we've talked a lot about the rides, the coasters, we're going to switch gears, because as we know, there is more to a park than just this. And we really want to highlight just a couple of other areas. The next area we're going to talk about is just food. I'll just briefly explain food from my perspective there. It is a lot of traditional theme park food. You got your hot dogs, your hamburgers, your chicken tenders. But from my perspective, one of the best things, and when you have the dining plan and you go park to park to park, you realize certain parks have stuff on the dining plan that other parks don't. And one of the things that I think is the greatest thing for a snack in the world is when you go there, they have a old school waffle cone place where they hand scoop hard ice cream. And they've got probably half a dozen or more flavors in there. And when you get a snack, this thing, they give you 3 or 4 big scoops. It is a huge waffle cone.
It is absolutely colossal.
Yeah. And I'll let you talk from here about more food, but why don't you tell them first, what is the significance with the waffle cone place? Why do they celebrate that at Six Flags?
Because you have to remember, in 1904, the myth is that ice cream cones were created at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. Okay, so it kind of plays off of that. There's still some conflicting stories about whether or not that's where ice cream cones were actually invented at. We know ice cream and waffles predate, 1904.
And what's the name of that ice cream store?
It is. It's World's Fair. It's World's Fair.
Yeah, World's Fair, and it's called First Cone.
First Cone, yeah, First Cone.
First Cone, because they are saying that they were the first ones to invent a waffle cone.
Right.
And so that's really cool, just to have that little nostalgic kind of
and it all kind of goes with that theming in that section of the park, of the World's Fair section of the park. You have the antique car ride, which is the moon cars. That was the models that they use on the track itself is like a Cadillac. It's not actually a Moon, but there was a manufacturer in St. Louis named Moon, and that's where the Moon cars comes from. So
it's cool.
That's another one of those tie-ins to the local history of the area.
Sure. For food, why don't you? If you had to pick three places for people to eat, people to try, okay, what would you say inside? What restaurants would you say? Hey, check out this place.
Primo's is my number one. Over next to you have to go to the one next to Supergirl, because there you can get an actual chicken Alfredo dish that they
okay,
or you can get, they used to have spaghetti and meatballs. I don't know if they still have the red sauce or not, but I know you can get the chicken Alfredo, and that is always a really great alternative to just having their pizza or chicken tenders or a cold hamburger. The second one, I do like going to Moose Lodge.
Oh,
I think Moose Lodge is actually pretty good if you can get it fresh. They have a really good brisket sandwich there, and then also there's the JB's Smokehouse. I wish our JB's Smokehouse was a little more like yours in Chicago. We don't have quite the offerings that your smokehouse does. But then again, between those, I would really like to see JB Smokehouse be more like Cotton Blossom at Worlds of Fun and actually offer ribs. They offer ribs. They offer smoked chicken. They have great sides. Their sides are amazing at Worlds of Fun. But that's another show. So we'll talk more. There
is, yeah, and we will. We're planning to do a show on Worlds of Fun, so that's going to be a really cool episode. Because I've never been there, but we'll talk about that on another episode. One of the things I do like about your JBs that we don't have, one of the offerings, is you have these mac and cheeses that you can put pulled pork on, or you can put barbecue chicken on, or whatever. And I love your mac and cheese, your barbecue pulled pork mac and cheese with some barbecue sauce on top. Awesome.
If I'm going to JB's, I'm not getting the mac and cheese though. The fries that they have there, those Sidewinder fries, are just absolutely incredible. That's the best fries I've ever had anywhere at any theme park. And what makes them so awesome is instead of doing like a pulled pork nachos or whatever, you can get it with the fries instead of the chips. So now you've got a pile of fries under a pile of pulled pork, under a pile of cheese, under a pile of salsa. Oh my God.
So good.
It's
so good.
So good.
And
you get the fries fresh out of the fryer. Oh.
And one other thing that I really like that my Six Flags doesn't do, and I'm from, I grew up in Missouri. I grew up in the Midwest. Put coleslaw on your pulled pork sandwiches. You do it in St. Louis because that's the way it's supposed to be done in the South. They do not do it. As a matter of fact, I don't think we even have coleslaw as a side at all at our park, and it breaks my heart every time. Yeah, we don't. It's up here. People don't know what that is. They don't understand that concept of putting coleslaw, and it's the best thing. So anyways, guys, now you know where to eat, what kind of stuff to look for when you're at Six Flags St. Louis. Make sure when you go there, do that.
Oh, one other thing. The funnel cake. The funnel cakes at Six Flags St. Louis are amazing, but you got to get them when they're fresh. If you let that sit for very long, just go ahead and toss it in the trash can. It's not worth eating after that.
I agree.
But when those things are fresh and you get the funnel cake sundae, it's so good. So good.
And guys, if you hear that strange sound, that is we are recording this live. I am from home, and my dog is scratching the chain around his neck. So that is what you hear, guys. It's nothing's happening. The apocalypse is in here. So the next episode or the next segment that we're going to talk about from food, and this is one of the last segments we have, is just generally speaking about special events. I can tell you from some stuff that I've noticed when I went, we used to always go to the concerts in the park. Or the concerts in the summer. Friday, Saturday nights in the summer, they always have these concert series, and they usually have some well-known people. I know in the past they've had people like Flo Rida and Daughtry's been there, and so we do have some. Actually, if you go back, my grandfather and my great aunts and uncles talk about some awesome country stars in the 80s that came through. And they talk about how Randy Travis came through there. They talk about how Garth Brooks, before he was Garth Brooks, before he was he came through there. And so I know that.
Boys. And I can remember, okay, so the very first concert I ever saw at Six Flags, I was 6 years old, and you're not going to know who this is. His name was John Davidson. I don't know if you probably have no idea who he is. He was an actor, TV host, singer, entertainer. There used to be a show on TV called That's Incredible. He was one of the hosts for that. And he also hosted the game show, a version of the game show, Hollywood Squares. So he was the later host for Hollywood Squares, like in the 80s and 90s back then. So, but I actually saw him in concert in like 1973 at Six Flags at Old Glory Amphitheater. And the amphitheater was like brand new like that year.
Cool.
So, but that's like the oldest one that I remember going to. But yeah, there's been over the years, we had a lot of huge names that came through Six Flags St. Louis at the concert series for the summer.
Yes.
And in the past few years, it hasn't been, they're not booking big names that are coming through. We still have like a lot of Christian bands that still come out, and that's our concert series now. So it's not, it's not something that I have to go out and see.
Right.
So,
which is sad. But there is 2 more events that happen every year that you do need to get out and see, guys. The first one is Fright Fest. I'll tell you, as a kid, I was mortified of Fright Fest. I was so scared because back in the day, I think it was better. But I went this past Fright Fest in 2019. I'm from Great America, and we're a Tier 1 park. And I got to tell you, the overall aesthetics of the park, I think Six Flags St. Louis did it better. The way your trees are with the fog and the lights and it looks like a nightmare. That's what I tell everyone. It looks like you're in a nightmare everywhere.
And I think, really, we were probably one of the first parks that did a Halloween event, starting back in the day. That they extended the season and actually, and that came in with the Warner Brothers, when Warner Brothers took over the park, we had Halloween nights or whatever it was called. And then that turned into Fright Fest. But so it's a long-standing tradition, Fright Fest is, and it's a really great event for our park, and it's always packed. My only drawback is that you have to pay to do the haunted houses. If you included that with the ticket price, that would be the rockinest game in the state.
Which, by the way, back in the day, they were included with your admission. There was a point in time where the concept of paying for haunted houses and you went to the park and it was included. Because my thing is, back in the day, oh my gosh, I remember my favorite haunted house. Now last year I really liked Blind Fury. I thought Blind Fury was awesome. But the one, I don't know what it's called, but I think it was called the Slaughterhouse. The one that reuses the old station from the Mine Train, the second.
Yeah, that's
for those of you who don't know, Mine Train used to be 2 sets of rails. It used to be 2 coasters. They removed one side of it. One side is still running. And they took the station house and made it into a haunt. And I really love the use of that station for that haunt. I think that it's a really great layout.
No, another thing it would be cool to do. I mean, let's talk about the worst ride at the park, or well, the second to worst ride at the park, and that's going to be Ninja. And really, I hate to see it. I would hate to see it go because it is an Aero looper, even though it was built by Vekoma. It's still an Aero design, and I don't think it's that bad. But if they took it out, I would like to see them put in a new coaster in that place and use that old mine train station. Put that back into use. That would be cool.
Oh, that would be neat. Just for a historical point of view, that would be so cool.
That structure is still there, and it's still well maintained, and it's still used.
Yeah,
so there's no reason not to use it.
For sure. And then we'll just move on from Fright Fest. And the last thing that the park does every year, they do a holiday in the park event, and they've been doing it a lot longer than Great America. Great America just started 2018 was the first season. Then we just did our second season this past year. I will say you guys maintain your stuff better down there. This was the second season we did it up here at my park. And I mean, there was effects and stuff that were already broken, that were already not working. And down there, everything worked. Everything was fine down there.
And but here's the thing. Okay, so we started in 2016 with Holiday in the Park, and we had like 1 million lights, and only about a third of the park was open. And then it's kind of slowly, gradually expanded a little more. I think we're up to about 2.5 million lights now. Nice. The character interactions are a lot better now than what they were the first few seasons. This past season was really nice. The park looked really good, with the exception of like the boss being closed and the Eagle. That stuff on the Illinois section is basically closed off. You can't even get back there. But this year they did have Boomerang open, and they did have open Skyscraper in the middle of winter. So yeah, that's really cold at that height. But it's improved. Holiday in the Park at Six Flags St. Louis has improved over the previous seasons, I think, and they're doing a lot better job with it.
Yeah, they've got some great shows.
Keep going in the right direction. Yeah, even the shows were better this year, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. I love, there's one called the Tinseltones, I believe is what it's called. I love the Tinseltones show. Even the Majesty of Christmas. I will disclaimer, guys, it is a religious based show. So if that's not your cup of tea, I wouldn't go see it. But if that doesn't bother you, it's awesome. They have live animals. They've got donkeys and camels and all kinds of cool stuff on stage. It's cool.
The first time I saw the Majesty of Christmas at Six Flags St. Louis, I was absolutely wowed. I thought that was a really very well done show. That was a really incredible show, and it's just keeps getting better. That the same guy comes back every year, kind of like the main character. He plays the main character and the narrator type thing. He's been back several seasons in a row, and he is just really, really good. He makes that show what it is. It's really awesome.
Agreed. I would say the only other thing that I would make sure to do if you go to Holiday in the Park, one of their signature things is right outside the Palace Theater. There's these 3 or 4 Christmas trees, and they're all LED Christmas trees.
5, yeah. There's like 5 of them across there.
Okay, yeah, and they're I think it's every hour on the hour, something like that. Check the times, but they do a whole show where the music is going and the Christmas trees are all synced together with all their lights, and it's a beautiful show. It is so cool, and I would say it's one of their main staples.
But it's not just those Christmas trees in front of the palace, those LEDs in front of the palace. It's also the trees behind you.
That's right.
So all that whole front lawn area of the palace is just, all the lights are going and they're all in sync, and it's really cool. It's really cool to see.
It is neat. So make sure to do all that stuff, guys. And that's going to wrap up all of our main talking points. We're going to end this episode with just overall thoughts of the park. I will share mine, and then we'll sign off with Tom. My overall thoughts are it's great. If you have a family and you've got kids and you just want to get out of the house and you want to give them some good, wholesome entertainment, and know that you're taking them to a place that isn't going to offend you, that isn't going to isolate members of the family. You know, this is only for thrill seekers. This is only for, you know, older people, whatever. This is a park where you can just go have a family fun day. I will say, if you are an extreme thrill seeker, you know, if you're an enthusiast and you've never been there, go down there for those 4 rides I mentioned. Go down there and get on the Boss, American Thunder. Go get on Mr. Freeze. Go get on Excalibur if it's running. That's worth the ticket of admission. And so, in my opinion, it's just a great family fun park, man, and it's a great time. I made a lot of memories growing up. Every time I go back there, it feels like home to me. No matter what parks I go to, I can't help but to look and go, I remember when me and Grandpa rode that together, or I remember when me and my mom went on Ninja for the first time, or I remember. And so for me, it's just all these memories coming back, and that's what Six Flags St. Louis is good for, in my opinion. Tom, what's your overall thoughts of St. Louis Park?
Oh, I totally agree with you. I think it's number one, it's home. It's my home park. You know, I grew up going out there. And like you said, it's really a very family-oriented park. It's not something that you have to worry about your kids being exposed to something that they shouldn't see or they shouldn't do. It's fun. It has a lot of great thrill rides. You know, it has some really good coasters as well as great flat rides and lots of stuff for the family to do and spend a day at. And the nice thing is, if you're living close by and you can get the pass for the season, it's something that you can do all season long. It's just that good.
Yeah, I agree. So guys, we want to thank Tom for being on the show tonight. Tom, it was awesome to get your insight, and anytime we connect, man, I always love talking to you.
Yeah, really, always fun.
Again, make sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel, Show Me Coasters. You can also find his page on Facebook. So make sure to connect with them to stay up to date with everything that they're putting out. Great content, guys. This is going to do it for this episode of Talk Around the Park. Remember, guys, if you're in Missouri, make sure to get over to Six Flags St. Louis. That's going to do it for us, guys. This is Thrill Max. Make sure to always take your thrills to the max.
Thanks a lot. And also, let me just throw in one other plug. We have a young YouTuber at Six Flags St. Louis. He goes by Phantom Coasters on YouTube. He is really, really good. And what really makes him, what's so impressive about him, he's only like 14 years old, and he is putting out some great, great content. Everybody go over, check out his channel, and hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, actually, Phantom Coasters, guys, or Phantom Coasters. I just did that really quick on the fly, but
there's no S on Phantom.
Okay, so no S on Phantom. But guys, make sure to go and subscribe to his channel as well. That's going to do it for us. Remember, take your thrills to the max, because this is Thrill Max.